Welcome to The Explainer. It's a huge question. Why do so many projects fail, even when you have smart people and plenty of resources? Well, today we're going to break down the simple, absolutely crucial steps in planning that can set you up for success right from day one. So let's kick things off with a story. Back in 2013, a little company you might have heard of, Facebook, launched a new interface for Android called Facebook Home. Now, the idea was that it would completely take over your phone, but instead, it just cratered. It failed so spectacularly that the phone it partnered with saw its price plummet from $99 to 99 cents in just a month. So what on earth happened? Well, it really all boiled down to one simple, kind of fatal flaw. You see, the team that built this Android product, they were almost all iPhone users. They had no idea what their actual customers cared about. They built something they thought was cool without ever really understanding the people they were building it for. And that right there is the core question, isn't it? How do you avoid building something that nobody actually wants? How do you make sure your team is completely aligned with the real goal? It all comes back to having a rock-solid plan. This is the classic nightmare scenario. The team follows the plan perfectly, they hit every deadline, stay on budget, but at the end of it all, the customer is still unhappy. This is the number one sign of a project that was doomed from the start because of a really bad definition of success. So this means we have to start by totally redefining what success even means. Because, it's not just about getting the work done. And this slide right here represents a massive shift in thinking. The old traditional view was all about internal stuff, right? Time and money. Did we finish on schedule and under budget? But the modern, agile view is completely focused on the customer. It asks, did we deliver real value? Did we build something they can actually use? It flips the entire focus from just looking inward at our own metrics to looking outward at the impact we're having. Here's a really powerful example of this in action. Instead of creating this gigantic 1,000-page list of tasks for rebuilding the Pentagon, the manager boiled it all down to just 16 outcomes. For instance, one requirement was simply that the building could not use more than a certain amount of energy per year. See what he did? He defined the what, not the how, and that empowered his teams to get creative and innovate to meet that goal. So a clear definition of success is step one. But how do you get everybody to agree on it and then actually stick to it? Well, that brings us to our first essential tool, the project charter. The project charter is your foundation. And no, it's not just more paperwork, I promise. It's the formal agreement that gets everyone on the same page. It's the contract that prevents that dreaded, this isn't what I wanted conversation at the very end of the project. A really strong charter has to answer these basic questions. Who's in charge here? What are we actually trying to achieve and why? When is it due? What's our budget? And what exactly are we delivering at the end of the day? Getting all these answers down in writing, right up front, eliminates so much of the confusion that can derail projects later on. And this is the real magic of a good charter. It sets the destination, the goal, the measurable outcome, but it gives the project team the freedom and the authority to figure out the best way to get there. It encourages creativity, not just checking boxes. Okay, so our charter is our high-level agreement, our North Star. But how do we translate that big vision into a concrete, day-to-day action plan? The secret to tackling any big, intimidating project is to just break it down into smaller pieces. You don't build a house all at once, right? You lay the foundation, then you frame the walls, and so on. The exact same principle applies here. And for that, we use our next tool, the Work Breakdown Structure, or WBS. It sounds kind of technical, but it's just a simple but really powerful way to map out everything, and I mean everything, that needs to get done. Think of it as your safety net to make sure no tasks fall through the cracks. Here's a super simple way to think about it. Let's say your big deliverable is wedding invitations. Okay, that's level 1, the main goal. Level 2 breaks that down into the big tasks. Create the guest list, design the invites, print them, mail them out. You can even go to a third level for more detail. Like, before you can mail them, you have to wait for the RSVPs. See? This is how you turn chaos into a clear, actionable plan. All right, so we've got our big list of tasks from the WBS. Awesome. Now, we got to put them in the right order to create a schedule that's actually, realistic. This is a super basic but critical concept in scheduling. You can't just do things in any random order. Certain tasks, which we call predecessors, absolutely have to be completed before other tasks can even start. Understanding this sequence is everything. And the most common type of relationship here is called finish to start. It's pretty much just common sense. Task A has to finish before task B can start. It seems obvious, but getting the sequence right is the absolute bedrock of a realistic project plan. If we go back to our wedding example, just think about the logic here. It's simple, right? You can't mail an invitation that hasn't been printed yet. Printing is a mandatory predecessor to mailing. It has to be finished first. Your entire project timeline is basically just built on identifying these simple logical connections. So let's wrap this all up. What are the key takeaways? First, and most importantly, define what success means to your end user. Then use a project charter as a contract to get everyone aligned on that goal. From there, break all the work down with a WBS. And finally, sequence those tasks to create a logical, realistic plan. These aren't just bureaucratic steps. They are your absolute best defense against project failure. And that's our explainer for today. Seriously, think about that question. Answering it might just save your next project.